Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to the ITIL4 webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which time zone you're joining us from. My name is Anand, and I'll be the presenter for this session. So, to give you a brief introduction about myself, I am a certified ITIL V3 expert and an ITIL4 managing professional with over a decade of experience in the IT service management industry. So I've been doing the ITIL training and consulting for past 14 years. Now that's about me. But here today we are to talk about ITIL. What is ITIL and how it can help us in today's scenario. So before we begin, I'd like to give a brief introduction about Cognixia. So Cognixia is world's leading digital talent transformation company. We are the authorized training partners for Red Hat, ITIL. We're a silver Microsoft partner and an AWS provider. So we have trained over 100,000, professionals worldwide, and we have talent development in 55 plus countries. We are a subsidiary, fully owned subsidiary of the Collabra Group, which many of you may have heard of. So that's a brief introduction about Cognitia. Following are some of the trainings that we provide. Now, coming to the ITIL, which is the main topic for today, what is ITIL and how exciting I am, to present to you this webinar. So ITIL is one of the trainings that is used by millions of IT professionals around the world. It's one of the basic fundamentals of IT service management, and it has been for over 4 decades now. ITIL not only provides you with the basic fundamentals that you need to manage the services within your organization, but it also provides you with a great career opportunity. A survey that was done recently told us that more than 90% of the Fortune 500 companies use ITIL as the best practice. So that opens the door to all the top 500 companies to build your path. That is how brilliant ITL is, and that's how widely in demand ITL is. So today we'll be talking about the following topics: what is ITIL, a roadmap, how ITIL has evolved, why ITIL4 now, what is new in the ITIL4. So some of you may be new to the concept of ITIL, but many of you may have already done previous certifications like ITIL version 3. So we're going to talk about what are the changes that have happened and what is the approach that ITIL4 brings along with us. And we'll also talk a little bit about the certification scheme and how it is different in ITIL4 and what are the various different certifications you can go for in ITIL4. So without any further ado, let's get started. So what is ITIL first of all? Well, ITIL refers to Information Technology Infrastructure Library. What does this mean? So ITL is basically a collection of best practices that have been collected since 1980s when the concept emerged when the British government determined that the level of IT service quality provided was not sufficient. So this was a project started in early 1980s by the British government. At this time, no one would have heard of ITIL. It was just a project started under the British government. 4 decades later, who would have known that this would go on to become one of the most widely accepted framework in the world? The main shift happened when in 1990s, Microsoft used ITIL to come up with its own framework. So initially there were 36 books on ITIL. However, over the course of years, these have been streamlined. There have been multiple updates to ITL, like in 2007, the version 3 was released. In 2011, another update came. The latest version that we're going to be talking about today is ITIL4, which it was released in 2019. So this is what we are interested in right now. So ITIL is the go-to IT qualifications for professionals who are looking to realize their full potential. It provides you with not only the basic fundamentals, but it also helps you on how to drive the IT service management within the organization. So whether you're a fresher or an experienced person in the industry, ITL Foundation is the most sought after certification. So how ITIL has evolved? So over the years, ITIL has evolved from being a technology centric, you know, certification to becoming business centric. So the level one, in the early days of the IT in early 1980s, it was everything was technology driven. Technology was at the center of the business that we did. We needed technical experts who understood devices and the platforms, but there was not much interaction between different teams. Okay. This is when incident management process was created. Then came the level two. There was more focus on control and increasing the stability of the infrastructure. Availability of component was measured and reported. Reactive problem management came into picture. Change management came into the picture, and process automations started coming. This is where we moved from just managing the technology to looking at how we can control the technology. Then came the level three, which is about integration of different services, how different services interact with each other. They were more focused on end to end delivery of services rather than isolation. There was an integrated disaster recovery planning and consolidated availability and capacity planning. Level 4 was about service provision. Services are quantified and initiatives aimed at delivering agreed service levels. Service requirements and technology constraint drive procurement. So, how, over a period of time, IT has evolved from being technology driven to looking at how we can contribute towards the business strategy. So, now, in 2021, how we are looking at IT is not from a technology perspective, but how we can add value to the business. So it has become more business centric. Business is at the core rather than technology, you know. So this is a shift that has happened. And because of this shift, which has happened, ITIL 4 has come into the picture. ITIL 4, brings business at the center, brings all the stakeholders at the center rather than the technology. Technology is important to deliver the services that we provide, but it is the business, that gives us the bread and butter. So this is the evolution of IT over the years. So why have we got ITIL 4 now? Why the update? So the previous version prior to ITIL 4 was ITIL version 3, which was released in 2011. This version was due to update because in the past few years, concepts such as agile, DevOps, lean, all of them have picked up pace, especially agile and DevOps. So ITIL version 3 was not really in alignment with agile and DevOps in the fast paced environment that agile and DevOps demands. So ITIL 4 has been released in 2019 to use a hybrid approach combining both the waterfall and the agile to manage our IT services. So this is the approach that most of the organizations are using. The traditional waterfall project management, and now we have agile project management. Most of the organizations are somewhere in between. So ITIL 4 very well addresses this hybrid approach. In the past few years, the way we do business has changed. It's all about fast delivery, quick delivery, and business requirements are changing overnight. So there is increased pressure on IT to deliver fast services. So ITIL 4 has come into the picture because of the digital transformation that has happened in the past few years. So the new framework we call ITIL as a framework has come into picture to take care of the challenges of 2021. ITIL 4 looks into service management from four different perspectives. ITIL 4 is a complete holistic approach in the sense that it looks into the end to end picture, irrespective of what work we are doing. It looks into how we can combine the four different dimensions. The four dimensions are organization and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, and value stream and processes. See, everything that we do within our organization, we either manage our organization or people, or we manage the technology, or our partners and suppliers, our third party vendors, or we manage our processes. Every activity, every piece of activity that we do in an organization can be broadly classified into these four categories. So these four have been identified by ITL as four dimensions of service management. Most organizations focus only on one dimension, that is technology. So most of the IT organization, put technology at the center of it while they ignore the requirements of the people. So if the technology is evolving, we have to evolve the people as well. We need to upskill the people. We have to ensure that our partners and suppliers are up to speed and they are able to support the latest technology. We have to automate and update our processes. So these four dimensions are not isolated and they're all connected, which is what ITIL4 recognizes, and therefore they brought the concept of four dimensions of service management to support a holistic approach that truly caters to the end-to-end need, right from managing the people to managing the technology, our suppliers, or the processes, and how to bring a balance in these four dimensions. So this is one of the aspects of ITIL4, the four dimensions of service management. Now, for the purpose of this session, I am just giving you a very brief or high level overview of these concepts. You have to keep in mind that we have about an hour of time, and my objective is not to give you a detailed training right now, but to give you a taste of what is new in ITIL 4. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to delve into the depths of the concepts. Another concept, or which is at the core of ITIL 4, is this service value system which you see on the screen. See, one of the challenges that we noticed in the previous version of ITL was that different teams worked in silos. Silos means isolation, people who don't interact with each other. So, if we talk about the business scenario a few years back, it was okay to have expertise and just know that piece of work. So, for example, if you're a developer, it was okay that development is your expertise and you don't know anything about how the operations are run or how testing is done, or you maybe just have a high level overview and you survived. That was fine. But in 2021, in an agile environment, every organization expects you to have multidisciplinary skills. So it is no longer sufficient for you to work in your silo or isolation. Okay. So this challenge is addressed by bringing in the concept of service value system. The service value system is truly holistic in nature, which brings all the different components of an organization. See, at the end of the day, our objective as a service provider is simple. We have to create value for our customers. We have to take the demand and opportunity that comes in from the customer and convert it into value. So here we bring in to you five different components of service value system. The guiding principle. Now, what are guiding principle? These are recommendations or suggestions that ITL makes. Now, those of you who are not familiar with ITL, let me just tease your brains a little bit with this concept. Unlike many other certifications that you may have done, ITIL is very unique because ITIL does not give you any rules. It's completely flexible in nature. It only gives you a set of recommendations or guidelines. As an organization, you can choose to follow some of these guidelines or you can even modify them. And that's the beauty about ITIL because it has always remained flexible. So here in ITIL 4, we have a set of 7 guiding principles which we'll study in the foundation. These 7 guiding principles help an organization to navigate through any situation that they may face. So that might sound very ambitious, but that is true. And these 7 guiding principles have been derived from Agile. So it is directly in alignment with Agile. So if your organization is recently moving or is already moved to Agile and you're looking at how to manage these services in an Agile environment, these guiding principles are a perfect start. These are guidelines or recommendations or suggestions that an organization can adopt. The next is governance. Um, In my 14 years of experience, what I have seen is organizations spend a lot of time in coming up with processes, policies, and training their people on what the policies are. However, when it's all done, they fail to have a governance in place. So, what do I mean by governance? They fail to have a monitoring system in place to ensure that the policies that they have laid out, the processes that they have laid out with so much of effort, are they actually being followed or not? Really amuses me every time I see this. So ITIL 4 also talks very briefly in foundation about governance. Governance is how we ensure within our organization that the policies or processes that we have laid out are being followed. To give you a very simple example to help you relate to the concept, every government has certain laws, every country has various laws. If you're from India, some of you joining us from India, we have laws for everything. It's not the law that is issue, it is the governance. That means we do not have enough monitoring to ensure that these laws are being followed. So similarly, in an IT environment, we have to ensure that governance is in place. So governance is one of the key concepts that is discussed in ITL service value system. This entire system, SVS, or also called as service value system, this entire system's objective is only one. What is that objective? To create value using these five components. So we have our guidelines or suggestions. We have how to monitor. Next, we have service value chain. What is this value chain? So one another unique thing that has happened in the past few years is that the processes that we used earlier, uh, are failing in the sense that every situation that the organization are facing in an agile environment is unique. The requirement that you get in from the business today may not be the requirement that you get tomorrow, and the approach also has to be fluid, and approach also has to change according to the need. So we bring in the concept of service value chain in ITIL 4, which helps you navigate through these various changing circumstances and scenarios. Every scenario in agile environment is unique. Every situation is unique. So we cannot have a fixed process, Uh, to give an example, I'm sure many of you would have experienced this. See, if you call a customer service of any of the companies, like I'll give my example, there's certain, without naming the organizations because I don't want to get into trouble or get sued. There's some companies, whenever you call them, irrespective of what your issue is, they have a standard script. Okay, a script is good, it brings in consistency. They'll open the call with the same script. However, irrespective of what issue I'm facing, and this has been experienced over past many years, they will have the same kind of a approach and solution, which not only frustrates a customer because the same uh, key, just like a same key cannot open every lock, the same approach cannot resolve every issue. We need unique approaches for unique challenges and problems. So not only it frustrates, but it also kind of brings the incompetence of the service provider to light. So in an agile environment, what is the need? In an agile environment, what does agile mean? First of all, agile means flexible, to put it very simply. We need a system which is flexible enough to respond to all the different challenges or different situations that we may face. Again, this is, I'm talking very generically, this is not specific to any particular role. Whether you're a developer or a project manager or an incident manager or you're into service desk, it doesn't matter. All of us face situations that are unique. So having a fixed response is definitely not the way. So what we do is we have something called as a service value chain. Now, as I said, we'll not be able to get into the depths of each and every concept, but basically what the service value chain is, it's a flexible response to each and every opportunity or demand. This entire system has been designed in such a way that depending on the opportunity or demand, it responds accordingly. It is not a fixed response. to every opportunity or demand, which was missing in the ITIL V3. ITIL V3 had the same response irrespective of what opportunity or demand was coming in. That's probably enough about service value chain right now. We'll see if we have time, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next comes the practices. So we'll look at what are the different practices. These were known as processes in ITIL V3, like your incident management, your change management, your problem, all the best practices that we have been following over the course of years. And of course, ITIL is not ITIL without bringing in continual improvement. So these are 5 components. The service value system is a very interesting thing. So how all these 5 components come together to create value for an organization, this is what service value system brings, and this is something new in ITIL 4. I'll just give you a minute to probably have a glance on these slide before we move on to the next one. So I know there's a lot to digest and a lot of information is being thrown out there. As I said, we'll have time for your questions. Okay. So, as I was saying, we have guiding principles, 7 guiding principles are there. We have focus on value. In brief, this guides us on how to focus on value, on creating value for different stakeholders at each and every step. Start where you are. This guiding principle encourages us to reuse the existing services, processes before we start from scratch. Progress iteratively with feedback. This guiding principle guides us on how to break down a big requirement into multiple iterations, wherein after every iteration we take feedback from the customer. Collaborate and promote visibility and think and work holistically. Two guiding principles which are at the core of agile methodology, which requires different teams to work together across boundaries, and which requires people to think outside of their isolation box. So if I'm a developer, for example, how to see that what work that I am doing is connecting to the different teams and the different work that everyone else is doing, whether it is the testing team or the deployment team, so on and so forth. Keep it simple and practical. Guiding principle guides us how to create solutions that are simple and practical, focused on meeting the outcome without unnecessarily complicating things. One of the challenges that I see, especially in large organizations, is that unnecessarily they complicate simple things. Simplicity is understated, as they say, right? See, simple solutions means it is easy for us to follow them, easy for us to manage them. So, this guiding principle gives us some guidelines on how to do that. The last is optimize and automate. So, I think everyone should be aware by now that the focus on automation in 2021 is huge. We're using all sorts of things to automate whatever we can, basically, not only to save cost, but also to improve efficiency. So, at a very high level, very, very high level, these are the 7 guiding principles that ITIL brings in. If you have done any of the agile trainings like a Scrum Master training, when you come for the foundation training, you'll notice right hand that all these 7 guiding principles have been adopted from the Agile Manifesto. Now, what are the practices that are there in ITIL Foundation? So here are the list of practices that you will be studying in case you decide to go for ITIL Foundation training. We'll talk about information or IT security management, relationship management, supplier management, how to manage our IT assets, monitoring and event management, release management, configuration management, deployment, continual improvement, change management, incident, problem, service request, service desk, and service level. So all the major core processes are covered in foundation. There are more processes in ITIL 4. However, to keep it simple for the students, the governing body has decided that in the foundation training, the participants would be focusing only on the core practices, and If they wish to proceed with the rest of the practices, they have to go to the next level of certification, because for most roles, the practices that you see on the screen are the most applicable, like change management, incident, problem, service desk, or service request. These are the most commonly used practices. If I have to name the most commonly used practices, these would be it probably. And then, obviously have asset and configuration. So all these practices are covered as part of the foundation training session. These practices would be 60% of your syllabus. So 60% of your entire ITIL 4 training is focused on these 15 practices. Next, we were talking about service value chain. See, service value chain is the heart of the service value system. If I just go back and forth between these two slides, you'll notice that what we have done in the next slide is just expand this service value chain. Can you see here? This entire part is service value chain. I'll just go back. Just have a notice. Demand and value are coming in from the service value system. This is SVS. The central part when we expand is this part. So here we have plan, design and transition, engage, obtain and build, deliver and support, and improve. This is the central part of the service value chain. This is basically how we convert a demand into value by using these different activities. These are called as service value chain activity. So what all planning we have to do, how we do design and transition, how do we engage with our stakeholders, what all resources we obtain to build, how the services are delivered and supported, and how improvement happens. All these different aspects that are there are covered in the foundation training at a high level again. So, whatever we cover in the foundation training, there are various levels to ITIL. In foundation, the objective is to give the participants a higher level overview without getting into too much depth. So, this is what is covered in the ITIL for foundation training. There are 5 modules. Module 1 is on basic principles, then guiding principles. We talk about governance, service value chain, practices, and continual improvement. So, continual improvement, you don't see a separate slide because in ITL, we don't really see continual improvement as a separate activity. We see that in everything, improvement is required, whether governance or guiding principles. So, continual improvement is at the core of everything that we do in ITIL. So that's pretty much about what all is covered. Now I'll talk about the certification scheme. See, ITIL 4 Foundation was released in 2019 first quarter, so it's 2 years old. Now this might sound like, okay, 2 years old is it's old. No, in ITL timeline, because we don't have frequent updates, like minimum 7 to 8 years is when a new version comes in. So I'm not expecting a newer version from ITIL at least till 2025 or maybe even later. It depends. So foundation is the entry level certification. It's the basic certification that offers a general awareness about the concepts, the key concepts and terminologies, the basic terms that we use. So in the foundation training, you'll be studying the basic definitions, all the practices that we discuss, and a very high level overview of the service value system. Foundation training is aimed at entry level IT professionals and anyone else who is been working in the industry for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, but they have not got them certified. Why it is required? See, today if you notice, and don't go by my word, do the research, you'll find out that whatever job that you apply for, one of the requirements is generally ITIL foundation certification. Why organizations are asking ITIL foundation training and certification, whether you're going for a developer role, you're going for a project manager role, architect, XYZ, whatever role you go in IT, because this foundation training gives you the basic fundamentals of IT, on how to manage IT. So organizations like people to have this certification. It is preferred, and some organizations have also made it mandatory. So once you do the foundation training session, complete your certification, there are two paths which you can explore. One leads toward becoming an ITIL managing professional. This is where I am currently. And the second leads towards becoming a strategic leader. I'll talk about the left hand side first because this would be applicable to most of the participants. So here, basically, we have various modules that specialize in specific areas. So, for example, you are in a role like in operations, and your role is to support the services, like you're in service desk, or you're in incident management, or problem management, or change management, all these and many more. So, you have a separate training and certification called as ITL specialist. Here, you learn how to create, deliver, and support. So when I say deliver and support, it covers anything and everything to do with your operations. How to deliver value, create value, and what are the various aspects involved in supporting the services provided to the customer. So this, once you get certified, you get a tag of ITIL specialist CDS. CDS stands for create, deliver, and support. Okay, so this is CDS in short. Next is drive stakeholder value. So some of you who are at lead or manager or senior manager role, if you wish to, drive value, if you manage various different customers and different teams and stakeholders, and you want to see how to get maximum value from these different stakeholders, then this is the certification for you. We also call it as DSV, drive stakeholder value. Now we have a specific certification for people who are working in agile environments, agile or DevOps environment, and they want to learn how to manage IT in a high velocity environment or a high paced, fast paced environment. Okay. We also call this as HVIT, high velocity IT. So these three are specialist certification. It's not necessary for you to do all these three. It's up to you. You can do, and there is no particular order in which you have to do. The only basic requirements in order to do any of these certifications is you should have completed the foundation training and you should be certified on foundation. So foundation is like a gateway to all these different trainings. Foundation is a mandatory requirement in order for you to move on. There are some exceptions, which I'll come to it in a moment. So these are the three specialist roles or certifications which you can do. Next comes the strategist. Now, if you're at a senior position in an organization, when I say senior position, it would be generally manager and above, or I would say even senior managers or directors, wherein you not only you don't have to implement ITIL in your organization, but you have to drive the design the ITIL processes for your entire organization. You want to create a strategy which the entire organization will follow. Then this certification becomes important for you. This is also called as DPI in short, direct plan and improve. This certification helps you understand how to direct the resources, how to plan for IT service management, and how to do improvement or continuous improvement. So, if you are into roles that involve continuous improvement or continual improvement, DPI is the certification for you. Now, if you complete all these four certifications, you become eligible for ITL Managing Professional. This certification is equivalent to ITL expert in ITL V3. There is, they've dropped the word expert in ITL 4. They call it a managing professional. Basically, if you're at this level, that means you're a seasoned veteran who has expertise in all these different domains. Okay. This strategist is common in the next vertical. So this is a separate vertical called strategic leader. Suppose you are at a leadership role, you're not interested in any of these specialists. You can ignore this. You can go to the strategic leader path, wherein you complete the ITIL strategist, which is direct, plan, and improve. This is common. So if you've completed the certification once, you don't need to do it again. It's shown in both the verticals. It's common in both the verticals. That does not mean you have to do it twice. Once you do it, it's applicable. The next is digital and IT strategy, how to create a digital and IT strategy for your organization. If you complete both of these, you become a ITIL strategic leader. All the certifications, including the foundation on the left hand side, do not require any basic prior understanding or basic knowledge or anything. There is no prerequisite to it, to put it very simply. Anyone, uh, right from freshers to experienced personnel, can do any of these certifications. However, on the right hand side, there is a minimum of 3 years experience required, because these certifications are generally aimed at people who are in senior roles. So, they will obviously have minimum 3 years of experience. So again, it's not necessary for you to pursue both of these verticals. You can choose, pick and choose. There is no particular rule which certification you have to do, or you can just do foundation. Foundation is the basic requirement for any of the advanced certifications. Okay, so this is what the ITIL scheme looks like in ITIL 4. ITIL Master, I'm not going to talk about because I see there are a handful of masters in the entire world. I think less than 30, maybe even less than that. And there is no certification or exam. Only if you have worked in the industry for long and you are able to demonstrate that you're a master, you can approach the ITIL and they will guide you further on how you can become an ITIL master. There is no exam for it, okay? It's like a PhD. You have to write a thesis and stuff like that. So I'm not getting into the details of that. So these are the various certifications. I'll just again give you a moment to go through this. So this gives you some insight into the different certifications. I've already talked about all of this. So managing professional is for anyone and everyone who is working within the technology domain. So that starts from developers to application support, IT architecture, project managers. Anyone and everyone is the target audience within the IT. Strategic leader, as I mentioned, all the people who are at the senior leadership roles. Okay, so we have already talked about this. Now, people who have done ITIL V3 and they're ITIL V3 experts, they can skip all of this. They can just do a certification called Managing Professional Transition, and after completing this one certification, they will be called as ITIL Managing Professional. This is only applicable for people who are experts in ITIL V3. They are certified ITIL V3 experts, or they have 17 credits. What these credits are, the people who are applicable for this would know. So for rest of you, this is not applicable. Anyone who's starting fresh will have to start from ITIL Foundation. That includes people who did ITIL V3 certification, like V3 Foundation. If you did, and you wish to jump to the ITIL 4, you again have to start from the foundation only. Only if you are an expert or have 17 credits in your kitty can you move towards the ITIL Managing Professional Transition directly. So that brings us to the end of it. Thank you very much for joining the session today. I wish you all have a very good day and looking forward to seeing all of you in one of the upcoming ITL sessions. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye bye.